All right, what's up, guys? I wanted to get into this kind of topic that's really been on my mind lately, the idea of how we talk and how we speak on a regular basis and how it ties into everything we do. And we don't even recognize that we're doing it. And so it bleeds in our work life. One of the top questions I get from first responders is how do I balance work life balance? How do I balance my work, my family, all my priorities, all these things, my fitness, everything I have to do? And I think one of the big things you need to start looking at is the language you're using. And we don't even recognize it because it just becomes unconscious to what we're actually doing. And we just start saying things and phrases all the time. So start auditing your language and seeing what are you saying habitually. Or are you saying things like, I always do this, or this person is always this way, or you never show me love, or and typical thing from being a police officer for 15 years, right? Everything is bullshit. Like everything is bullshit and everybody is assholes. That's just the way it is. Like no matter what one way you look at it or another, everybody's an asshole. Like, why did that happen? I don't know. He's an asshole. And why did this happen? It's either political bullshit, administrative bullshit, touchy feely bullshit. Let's see, affirmative action bullshit, management bullshit. Everything's bullshit. And guess what? Being a cop wouldn't be so bad if it wasn't for this bullshit, right? Like that's the language that we continue to use, and everybody in the brotherhood will use that same type of language, right? So they all will start to say the same kind of thing, and we just fall into the negative traps. We find ourselves saying over and over again, yeah, it's just bullshit. Why does these things happen? I don't know. Then you start going back into your family life and that cynicism, because that's just your normal language. That's just your MO, the way you operate. And then you bring that in back into your family life. So let's kind of talk about that. I just got back from a seminar in Arizona and I was talking about language and the importance, really, because I want people to stand up. And it had something to do with more about alignment and finding your truth, but it still ties into your marriage and your household. It's really, really important. So, one of the things I'll talk to you about is this idea known as Amsprache. Now, this was a phrase used by German soldiers. Okay, so German soldiers would anytime back in World War II, when prisoners or anybody would ask them like, hey, why are you doing this? Like, why do I have to listen to you? Why are you killing so many Jews? Well, the German soldiers would respond in this way. They would simply say, well, because I had to. Superior orders, just following the law. How often have we heard that with things like mandates, just listening to my boss, doing what I'm told? And so we start to develop a language where we start to deny responsibility. Okay. We stop actually recognizing that we're denying responsibility. And we just start talking and saying things like, I have to, I like, for example, if this is something I've heard before, like a teacher in a school district will say something like, I have to give good grades. I have to give good grades because if I don't, I'm going to get fired from the district. But that's not true. The reality is you choose to give good grades because you want to keep your job. You don't have to do anything. Everybody has a choice. Everybody does. And so this phrase, Amsprache, was a phrase that the German soldiers would use to deny responsibility. And again, when we start to deny responsibility and use language that is so routine of, yeah, I just had to do that. Think about people asking, why are you doing this, officer? It's like, well, I don't know. Have to. Boss's orders, superior's orders, just following the law. We start to unconsciously we're not directing any energy to any thought. There's no thought. It just becomes a habitual routine. And because it's on autopilot and there's no thought, you're not aware of what you're saying and what you're doing. So this phrase, Amsprache, was used. It meant office talk. That's how it translated to. It actually translated to like office talk or bureaucraties. And so the German soldiers would do that. And that was their nickname for this type of talk, this type of language, this type of slang. So think about how your language and the words you're using on a regular basis, either at work, but more importantly, then you bring that into your family. You start saying the same kind of stuff. Your child asks you, why do I have to do this? You're like, because you have to. My orders. You don't even know. You're just saying these things, right? So be very aware of that. And I'm going to tell you the 4 ways that many of us are denying responsibility. And the 4 of them are these. So actually, I'm sorry, 5. There's 5 ways that we are denying responsibility. Number 1 is dictates of authority, right? Like I lied to the client because the boss told me to. Institutional policies, rules, regulations. That's number two. I have to suspend you for this infraction because it's the school policy. The third one is the action of others. Okay. And that's like what we were talking about when you're kids. I hit my child because he ran into the street. That's number three. Number four, vague or impersonal forces. So I cleaned my room because I had to. I had to do it, right? That's a common one. And then number five is group pressure. This is what you see at work and within, especially the first responder community, right? I started smoking because all my friends did. You know, uh, you start doing whatever. You're just following the group. You're following groupthink. You're riding that wave. All of these are ways. These are five common ways that you will be trapped by your language. And if you're not aware of it, some really bad things happen. And there's actually a quote. This is from the book Nonviolent Communication. He says, "We are dangerous when we are not conscious of our responsibility for how we behave, think, and feel." Super critical. That I think is really, really powerful. And again, that's what I'm talking about. This idea of language and how you're showing up in your family life, because the work life puts so much stress and demands on you from everybody, from the administrative policies to the actual just demand of the work of you having to show up. You get beaten up, you get weathered down. And so it's really hard to remain positive. And then you just start to defer everything. Well, I would do my job if the district attorney would charge cases. I would do my job if I didn't have such restrictive policies. And we start to limit ourselves and we start to really dive into this negativity. That negativity then bleeds into your family life. And then you start not wanting to make decisions for your family. You start bringing the same cynical attitude towards things. And then you go offline too, because you're so busy making decisions at work that you actually go offline and you don't want to make decisions when you go home. You don't want to. And so you're not proactive with those decisions and you're not showing up as a leader. And then your wife and your kids see that and you just start to tune out. And then your answers are, I don't know, I have to. I don't know, because I said so. Some of that happens, and that's just normal from fatigue. You start to weather down. But I really think this is a powerful idea. And that's why I wanted to share it, because I think a lot of us are doing it and we're just so unconscious of that, of what's happening. And so I think this can be really helpful. The last thing I would just mention is, a lot of the strategies and a lot of the things I talk about is in my best-selling book. I'm holding it up here, but it's not. Where is it? It's called Ignite. Here's for everybody on TikTok. Go get that. This went bestseller in 7 different categories. I talk about health, really. The first 2 chapters are all about mindset and beliefs, visualization. I mean, there's just so much clarity, vision, your limiting beliefs, what's holding you back. And then the other part talks about some of the physical things we can do for our body, such as detox, exercise, nutrition. And then I end with a lot of things that have to do with habits and cementing and executing and prioritizing so you can continue to do this for the long run. So a lot of the solutions I offer in this book, Ignite, go check it out. Joel Evan, Ignite, it's on Amazon. You can grab the book. So if you have any, leave me some comments if you thought this was useful. I went live here for that specific reason so that people could interact, but leave some comments. Let me know what you thought of this, if you thought it was helpful or what you'd like to see more of. I'm going to start doing more of these on a regular basis. And I really think if you just start making these minor shifts, you're going to see some huge transformational effects in your marriage or with your family and your kids. So I hope that was helpful. I'll see you guys next week.